Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guests today own two different businesses, a restaurant and a local bottle shop and growler bar. They both are gnarly, and of course, the best part of them, after 9.5 years in business, they will be now near each other. Please welcome one or both owners of Gnarly Barley and GB's Bottle Shop, Joey Morris and Zach Scray. What's going on, guys? Of course I was going to mess it up.
And you knew it.
What's happening? Happy to be here.
Yeah.
So before we start, obviously my first question, what is your favorite or go-to sandwich?
All right. So we actually did compare notes on this briefly, and because I knew you were going to ask. And it was funny because when we showed our cards to each other, they're the same card, but for different reasons. No, honestly, my best answer is like all sandwiches are, I mean, it's situational,
yes.
Right? Like everything's perfect. There's no bad one. So when I was thinking about like, okay, what are we going to say for this answer? I don't know. What I fell back to, which maybe we'll get into it in a little bit, but on our menu, we have our 38 like club type sandwich, which is like ham, turkey, bacon, provolone, honey mustard, and then this like kind of spicy ranch we call tiger sauce. But it's because it's delicious and it's like a great, just like kind of anytime, a club sandwich goes whenever. But for me, it's because that's something that we kind of, when we started, was also pulled from like where I fell in love with like eating sandwiches all the time, like the sub shop that was around when I was in high school, which was called Deli Planet, RIP for anyone out there that knows. And we translated that onto our menu, and so that is what I'm going to say is my favorite go-to sandwich, because it's got a deep connection and is also a good any time of day sandwich.
And the reason I can claim the throne is because I've eaten more of them than him. So that's why I was like...
You're like, that's why I want that
That's
one.
why I was like, it's mine, actually.
Okay, I got it. That's actually a great one. I have had it. It's delicious. I thought you were going to... I was waiting to see what other one could be, but I definitely think it's a good, solid choice. So first question I have, tell people a little bit about Gnarly Barley. And we'll talk first Gnarly Barley, then we'll talk about GB's Bottle Shop. Like, first off, like, how did you guys decide to open Gnarly Barley?
I mean, I think that it goes back a little bit to what I was just mentioning. Like, so Trace and I have known each other, our other partner have known each other since high school. And we both, there was the place I just mentioned, Deli Planet, which was near Boone High School. And then somebody that you've had on here, Palm.
Yeah.
Trace used to work at Pom Poms in high school as well. And so we kind of equally developed this like love around a sandwich shop growing up for different reasons, both consumer and employee, and kind of carried that through high school or into college. We both went to Florida State. We lived together. And we always had this idea, even though we were studying for completely different things. And so we always talked about this as like a joke, and we worked in food industry. And then through Trace's now wife, we met Zach, and he was kind of the third piece of that.
Shout out to Katie.
Shout out Katie Knight. And so what happened was we were coming down to graduation time, and we didn't really know what we were going to do. We both were working in food service. Our degrees were in something entirely different, and we hadn't taken the steps to set up whatever was going to come next. And Trace's family reached out, and they had this little dive bar on their property that had recently become available. And they're like, hey, you guys, you've always talked about doing something. Like, do you want to go at it? Like, the space is becoming available. The couple that was running it was leaving. And we said, well, it's that or keep, working as low-end managers where we're at right now. So yeah, let's give it a try. And so we were with the help of a lot of people who were working on it when we were too busy. And then we'd come home on weekends from Tallahassee, and we'd do build out stuff. We walked across the stage, we graduated, and like 3 weeks later, we were throwing a grand opening party at Gnarly Barley for the first time in Orlando with us three. We brought in another employee friend of ours, Sarah Lee, like immediately, and like the four of us ran it for quite a while before we started bringing more people in, and we would just live there all day, every day. Zach was actually working 2 jobs because he was helping get it started, and he was working out at the Wyndham hotels.
Yep.
So it was just kind of like this all day, like 21, 22-year-old kids opening a bar and sandwich shop, beer bar, and like just getting eyebrow raises, but people were like accepting it, but they weren't sure, and like
It had a very like Always Sunny feel to it. You know?
oh yeah,
Like we're
Yeah,
not,
okay.
we shouldn't be
Right.
running this place. But
exactly.
we're
Yeah, like
doing it.
every vendor that came in, you know, for beer sales or food sales or whatever, were like, wait, you guys are the owners? And we're like, yeah, no, we don't just work here. Like, this is our place, and you know, we're very blindly confident in what we're doing, and just messing around. And so that's how it got started, and we really just literally lived in it because we were like, we just got out of school. You know, we don't have mortgages, we don't have, you know, weight on us, so we're free to play around in the space without too many concerns, and just let it grow organically. And I think, you know, that was the good thing, is that we didn't have too much overhead on us. We were able to kind of just play with it and see what could come of it, and we got a lot of runway to kind of make mistakes and grow and learn and make good relationships with the immediate neighborhood and our customers. So like they kind of trusted in us, even though they weren't sure about everything that was going on, I guess, that we were doing, but they kind of made friendship level relationships with our customers, and then it just kind of grew from there. And we genuinely thought a couple years in that we'd be donezo, that we thought, we're like, hey, this is a great learning experience. We'll write down some lessons. We'll go back to the study room, and we'll come up with a new concept after this has kind of been played around with, and we'll start over. And it just kept going.
What's amazing to me is the fact that, which I like, is the fact that once you started it, you kind of were like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And then the whole idea that you were even thinking like, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll just kind of fail forward. We'll learn from it and kind of go, which is really, really impressive to be able to go, especially since you guys actually didn't even go to study for this. I've never heard the story, which I absolutely love, because it's like it literally like almost kind of not fell on your lap, but the opportunity came and you guys just said, screw it, let's just do it. Which I love. And I love the fact that Trace's parents like actually were like, hey, why don't you guys do it? You guys will be talking about it, because there's a lot of people that just talk it, but don't do it. So the fact that you guys actually did it is pretty phenomenal.
It definitely felt like, when I look back, it's definitely one of those, we probably still would have ended up doing something eventually, but it's hard to see, you know, with the way it played out, a different history where if we'd passed on it, how much longer would we have waited?
Yeah.
You know, like it was the perfect moment to say, screw it, let's go for it, because we had nothing lined up. I mean, we had worked for Trace and I worked for the same company for a long time. Zach had worked for a lot of different food and beverage companies, but was, you know, very good at what he did and could have kept skyrocketing through that. And
I left a promotion. Like they asked me like in the interview, like, is this Gnarly Barley thing gonna like interfere with this? And I like finally got the job I always wanted out of college. And then I was like, a week later, I was like, yeah, I'm leaving for that. I was like, I feel terrible. Like I didn't think it was gonna work. Like, you know, like I even, you know, like you're looking outside, looking in, you're just like, no way.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
Wow. So then how did you guys come up with the name Gnarly Barley?
a lot of just throwing things at the wall. Trace and I worked in the same, like I said, we were low in management where we were at, in the same kitchen, and we would just sit there and just all night, all shift. What about this? What about this? What about this? You know, we knew roughly what we wanted to do. We were still kind of putting it together. We knew we wanted to be a sandwich shop. That's like where it all started. And then Trace had a family friend here in town, one of the old owners of the Cloud Cottage back in the day. And he was like, you know, it doesn't cost you guys anything to sell beer. And at that time we were getting into craft beer. So we were like, yeah, why not? We hadn't even thought about that, like selling beer to people.
Yeah.
We're barely old enough to buy it. And so at some point we just kind of came up with like, okay, well, like sandwiches, like barley, beer, like there's something there. And then eventually just the gnarly part of it clicked in. And I think I was doing dishes in the dish pit, and he just runs around the corner in the kitchen. He's like, gnarly barley. And I was like, pin that one on the board. I feel very good about it. Just leave that there. We might go through some other things, but I think this is where we're at, and that's kind of how it came to be.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. So then how did it go? So you guys started, and I wanted to say you in 2016 you guys opened GB's, right? Bottle
Yes.
shop. So how did that come about? Because did you just want like what inspired for you to open this? Because it's obviously a different concept, obviously still beer, but it's a different concept. It's a great concept, but I'm kind of curious, like what inspired it and what led to it for you to be able to open it up?
So we had tried, and this I'm sure will lead to where we'll get later. We had tried to think about growth on Gnarly at that site, at that property, and for a lot of different reasons, between building codes and things like that, just the hurdles were too high. So we kind of started pivoting to, what we knew we were ready to grow. We had a great staff infrastructure. We had, good business going. We were hungry to just keep kind of pushing. And so, traveling around, obviously we'd gotten into beer pretty deeply through the help of a lot of awesome people around town, and become more knowledgeable and more excited about that industry. And so as we traveled, we would just see bottle shops and see these retail stores. And, when we were at home, it was so hard to find some stuff sometimes. Your options were like ABC or Total Wine for buying beer. And while they have a huge selection, like no doubt, at this day, you can go to Total Wine and get probably almost anything you want. And they definitely have a better handle on their knowledge of the products now. But back when we were thinking about it, they didn't. Like, you go into Total Wine and ask for something, the guy had no idea if they had it, never heard of it. It might be sitting on the shelf right behind him, but he had no clue. So we kind of saw this as like, hey, we love going to these kinds of places when we travel and seeing what local beers they have or whatever. And then also, we don't see this at home. There's great bars here. There's great beer bars, but there were no real retail experiences that we saw.
Mind you, it was 2016 in
Right.
Orlando.
Exactly.
So like,
this was a while.
Yeah, this
now,
is- yeah.
now it's like
Well, and it was, and
paradise.
it's not only, it was 2016 when we opened. We were in build out here forever. So I mean, this idea was like 2014. in
Really, it
Orlando.
was.
We
Yeah,
were
it was
really
like it was
thinking about
conceived in
it.
2014.
Right, and so it
Wow.
took us a couple of years to find a space, build out the space. So it took us a while to actually get the doors open.
But yeah, it
so-
came because like we're the consumer and we wanted to see it, so we just were like,
Yeah.
let's just make it then, out of like necessity of
Yeah.
like being selfish.
Yeah.
Like we were like,
Yeah.
we want something
Yeah.
that we can enjoy ourselves, and being nerds and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is it.
So, and that's the thing. What I like about it is like there really isn't too many places like this in Central Florida. I mean, there's breweries and stuff like that. But the thing I like about it is, and we're in GB's bottle shop right now. So like, what's great about it is you can obviously order from, go and there's a menu board and you can literally order. You could do growlers. You can, you could do a pint. You could do, there's many options for you to be able to drink. But what I also like is the fact that it's in a neighborhood. There's beer in a fridge, but then there's also beer that's kind of like on shelves so that you can just actually pick up a beer. But if you don't want to buy one of the beers on, kind of like it's the beauty of it. If you don't like any of the beers on the board, you just go to the fridge, pick one of the beers, pay for that, crack it open and drink it cold, which is amazing to me because and one of the stories that I always heard was like you guys, one of the things was like New York inspired, some like kind of like a trip to New York and places like this inspired it because there isn't really too many locations like this that offer this, and I thought that it was important the fact that you guys are like are in a neighborhood, so you got local people that can literally walk in, pick up some beer if they want to, or if they want to stay here and drink, they can. But what I also love about this spot is the fact that you guys, because being smart in that aspect is, hey, we don't have any food. You then allowed other small businesses to basically kind of provide that. Was that something in mind to kind of like, hey, how can we keep people here? Because obviously, as you drink, you start getting hungry. Is that kind of the thought process as well that kind of went with it? Obviously, since it goes so well at Gnarly Barley as well.
We got lucky. I mean, Hideaway's our neighbor, so
And they make a great patty melt.
they make everything that we would probably have somewhat in here if we were like had a kitchen. So it was kind of like, yeah, this is great. So we never really had to think about it as much, but I mean, it was definitely something we noticed in the beginning. We were like, because it was our first bar. So we were like, wow, like not having food actually is terrible. Like as far as like people are leaving all the time to go get food. And Hideaway does do a great service for it. Like we're amazing partners, but the fact is it's like, you still have to leave to go get it. So it's like a used car sales lot. It's like once you walk off property, you're probably not coming back.
Yeah.
So, it's something that we've got a lot better at recently. getting food here all the time.
Yeah.
But
Between that, I know you guys have done like, and talking about being creative and figuring out new ways, especially trying to keep people. I know you guys have done yoga here. I know you guys do trivia, movie, you guys do a variety of pretty much you're like, hey, we've made a space. And the way you've even kind of created the space, like all the tables are on wheels. So you can like literally, we can move things around and make things happen, which I think is important. The whole idea of flexibility and figuring out ways of how you can make it. So it's kind of like, this is our main function, but we obviously want to be able to offer other opportunities. And if we decide to come up with something creatively, we can make it happen pretty easy.
Yeah. It's huge when you're, I don't want to say just a bar, because I mean, obviously there's a lot going on this side of the room, but when you're primarily just doing beverage, I think it's awesome to have a good space to allow other people to come in and partner with you. When you're doing the restaurant, you're controlling the entire experience because there's so much that goes into it. But when you're really just doing a lot of beverage service, that leaves the floor open, literally and figuratively, to do a lot of different things and partner with people and have events. We've done paint nights, all kinds of things over the years, and so that is a lot of fun. And honestly, I mean, if there's there silver linings of like the last year and a half too is with everything that's happened, I think you've seen a lot more creatively in that kind of small event type market, in the sense of like pop-ups have grown a lot. Food pop-ups. We had food trucks before who did amazing jobs, but sometimes there's so much less mobility. It's kind of funny because a truck is way more mobile than a restaurant, but a pop-up's way more mobile than a truck. And so like we'd have issues with trucks when breakdowns or things like that, and so it was kind of hard to keep a steady flow of vendors here. And then you had kind of this pop-up market explode over the last year and a half, and food creatives that have come to market and are making awesome stuff and making really cool brands, and they've come out of nowhere, and now we're like, our schedule's full all the time of really good food. Like, we're not trying to just fill a schedule. It's brands that are making really delicious stuff, and so it's awesome to be able to have them on site, and that's something that's between that and other little events, that's really, the creativity's kind of grown in this downtime that people have had, I think, and we've been able to kind of partner with a lot of really cool stuff, so that's been awesome.
Yeah. What So I know how you guys got Gnarly Barley, because I was always kind of curious, like how you guys figured out that location, because it's in Belle Isle, and it was it's a good distance from, I would say you're like off a Sand Lake, and obviously you had some benefits, but you basically were doing a drive. If you were going to go to Gnarly Barley, you were driving specifically to go to Gnarly Barley. Obviously for this location where GB's Bottle Shop is, you're in a neighborhood. Was that kind of like one of the things that you guys figured out? Like, I wanted to be in a neighborhood in like, kind of like that. Like, was this like the location kind of you always wanted, or were you guys just kind of looking like, hey, we just want something that kind of encompasses, like, what was your parameters of figuring out? Because, obviously location is key when it comes to something like this.
I mean, it was honestly like we were fans of all the neighborhoods. We saw the districts growing. I mean, again, back in 2014, 2015, you were like, wow, Milk, Ivanhoe, Mills, like, these areas are like blossoming, and it's so creative, and it's so like it's fresh. And I think that's kind of what we were big fans, we hang out everywhere, like, again, too, we were younger back then. So it's like, we were everywhere, like, so,
you're out 6 nights a week, and one night to recover, and then,
right.
Get back at
Working
it.
and going out was unfortunately all of our 20s. So, that's how we kind of landed here, is because it was like, man, this street is amazing. You saw the potential, but you also love the people. It's the scene, it was just being in the scene, really.
So based on the fact that I mentioned, like, both locations are far apart, like, and obviously as time went on, you guys grew staff and everything like that, but how difficult was it to kind of manage 2 different locations, 2 different areas? I mean, obviously it's 2 different types of businesses, but still you're managing it, and it's, how did you guys kind of work that out? Was there like a game plan, or was it like, how did that, I mean, obviously there's 3 of you at least, so then that kind of helps, and you have a great support system from Gnarly as well, but how did you guys kind of work that out?
Oh boy, that's a deep one.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the hardest thing for us. I think if we really looked at everything, that was like the toughest time, was because you're learning how to grow, right? And then not only that, like you said, they were far apart. So you're like, oh wow, set myself up for a unique challenge here. And then you just kind of adapted, and you went from that. But then, as you keep telling the story here, it kind of pieces it together. A lot of what we did later on is we learned so much from that. And I mean, for us as business owners, I think we grew the most during that time, really. Like,
Yeah, it was a journey. I mean, we benefited from having, amazing staff, but, I think we definitely spread ourselves thin, and it was a pretty big learning curve for something that we weren't familiar how to do. And, the driving back and forth and there are three of us. Like, if one person had done this, they would have failed miserably. But, our managers were awesome, and they put up with us learning a lot of it, for sure. I know they had their frustrations at times as we were figuring out how to do it. But they were awesome, and they stuck through it and let us learn over time, and we all got to where we needed to be eventually. And there were always struggles figuring that out, but it was definitely, we underestimated that aspect of what we were doing. And that was, without any kind of framework, it was the same thing. We just went for it. So we kind of just went without looking and hoped for the best, and, encountered our own stumbles, but it eventually worked out.
So two things that go with that based on what you said. Cause one, it was kind of like, and I'm kind of curious, is it like a level of naivety in the sense of like, hey, we're young and screw it, let's just try it? Like, because there's a level of fearlessness there in the sense that, other people probably would have been like, no, I don't want to take the chance. Like, maybe we need to do something else. Like there, because obviously the two big things is like fear of failure. That's like the number one thing. So like, how is it that you guys overcome, or not even overcome, but how do you guys, I guess, develop being able to deal with that? Is that something that like you guys as a group, because there's also three of you, which is like, that's like another tentacle of hard work when it comes to it. Cause I've done businesses with partners, and it can become very, if not all three of you are on the same journey or the same vision, you're going to have that whole, hey, he's doing way less than he should be. Like, what a slacker this one is. And and then it starts becoming, and it kind of crumbles. So like, how is it that you guys have done it as a group to kind of all mindset wise say, is it a balance thing, or how have you guys developed that? Because, developing all these things and then also looking to create new things along the way of this, you guys have obviously had to be able to take risk and be able to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it together. And there's three of you now. So it's not even one person saying, I'm going to do it, and that's it.
I mean, I think the first part is that all three of us are very hard workers. We definitely have our specialties. I think the naivety was thinking that there's 200 hours in a week, and there's not. And I think that was like the biggest lesson that we all had to learn. But there's definitely a lot of conversation that goes into our directions, and there is a lot of like brotherly arguments for sure that happen behind closed doors and unfortunately in front of staff sometimes, but they all know. Like, and I think the thing, everyone going back to that thing, like my journey, like with our other partner Trace, for example, and then with Zach, is like, they're always like, don't live with your best friends, you'll hate each other. Well, Trace and I lived together for almost 5 years. Zach and I even were roommates for a large portion of this journey. We're not anymore, but we lived together for like 8 years. We got through that just fine. Don't go into business with your friends because you'll hate each other.
Heard that one.
Exactly. We're fine. We're all still here. We're about to open, a bigger location, and that worked out fine. I think the thing that keeps us all centered is we all know we're going to bat for each other. We all know that we have different ideas. But at the end of the day, when we are in a disagreement and we're working on something and maybe arguing endlessly over minute details because we all want to see the details pan out, but we all know that it's because it's not comes from a condescending place, those arguments. It comes from, I just want to see what happens best for the business. And I know that even if like Zach disagrees with me or Trace disagrees with me, their argument is coming from the same place. We're all just trying to do the best thing for Gnarly Barley and GB's Bottle Shop. And that keeps it from ever getting personal. So sometimes we need to walk away for a second and then come back at it with fresh eyes and like re-go over something. But that's what keeps the glue together in terms of us moving forward and finding a singular vision at the end of the day. And we all get pieces of the little things that we're all inspired by and put that together. But yeah, sometimes it might take longer with three brains than it would with like if just one person moved forward, for sure. But that's what kind of keeps that working. And yeah, our biggest hurdle when we were, I know you want to talk about the kind of offshoots that we tried a little bit. And
you can bring them up.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we did Gnarly downtown. We did that for a year inside Market on Magnolia with Pete and the team over there, and it was a good experience. It just wasn't the right fit at the end of the day. And then we translated that into big times in Thornton Park with the team from Burton's and the Lodge, and great guys, awesome team in both places. But the reality was we just kept, again, thinking that, like, I can do another 20 hours of work. Like, I can add that much onto my work week, no problem. We can add this thing on. We can figure it out. And really just maybe expecting too much, which is where we probably need to temper ourselves sometimes.
For sure.
But that's what it is. I don't think we're afraid to try anything. Our issue is where we need to stop ourselves is thinking about how much focus needs to be on something. And I think that's where we're going with doing this Gnarly Barley move. It's, we always wanted, all these things were sprung out of wanting to grow Gnarly Barley one way or the other. We did downtown. We did big times because it was a little bit of both. We had a commissary kitchen for Gnarly Barley to be able to play with a menu and have a bigger space to prep stuff. And the trade-off was doing the big times restaurant, doing the burgers and the food that came out of there. But it all came from the singular creative want of trying to grow Gnarly Barley. So I think that's where our focus is going into the new space, is like, okay, we can focus on two things and make them awesome. Instead of trying to do 4 little offshoots, let's just focus on these 2 bigger spaces. And we can still do a lot of things within them that we can keep that outlet going and keep that growth going. I think it took us a lot of spreading ourselves thin to realize we needed to kind of like reconcile and consolidate a little bit together to push that all forward. Yeah.
Do you think that part of the reason why you guys did the 2, like the offshoot of the other ideas, obviously besides it was, I mean, they're smart ideas, was the fact that because of where the location where you guys were, in order to have more of a presence, or was it also to kind of grow? So it was kind of like a mixture of like, hey, I want to kind of grow our presence because we're kind of a little bit, this is downtown, get to know us. Hey, they have another spot, let's go over there and be able to kind of experience all that. Was that a part of it as well, or is it just kind of like, hey, let's try something new and this is a great we have another opportunity to kind of to make it happen, to do it?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, when Gnarly Barley downtown, that was like, we never even thought, I mean, even here, and a lot of people are putting it together for the first time since we're moving here, they're like, GB stands for Gnarly Barley, right? We like didn't know how to grow our brand. Like that was like the issue. Like we never like put the actual ideas in place. And so you're like, Gnarly Barley downtown, let's like go up north and like spread the word, right? And then that's kind of how that happened. So it was a little 50-50 on that, But yeah, I mean, trying to think of like any other examples. I got nothing. What you got, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it really it was a little bit of, and this has definitely been something we've talked a lot about with a lot of people. Like we had a great community down there, the Belle Isle community, and then we got like that was our everyday business, our foot traffic, if you want to call it that, was literally the airport. We were so close to the airport that people
and Sunrail, right? And Sunrail, because you guys are literally right across the street. You guys are
like basically our slogan, like you're leaving Orlando, come down to Gnarly. Like it was
so we had a great community around there, 100%. There was, as time went on, I mean, there was just such an explosion of awesome ideas in these neighborhoods that we had a lot of regulars that would travel to Gnarly, and then you kind of had all this growth happen up here, and like you said, it kind of made the destination farther and farther away for people. And so we were thinking like, oh, Outpost, like that's a great idea. And like we were, again, had great relationships with those operators that we worked with. So it was like, okay, this could be a good fit and we could do something down here. And there definitely was a little bit of brand recognition of people being like, oh yeah, you guys from downtown. I haven't been down there in forever because it's so far. So I'm so happy you're here. And so it was good in that respect. For sure, it was a piece of it, and it helped. But again, it just at the end of the day, we were like, we need the operation more. We think up here, that was kind of the goal, is to get into more of these neighborhoods with the foot traffic and be in a place where we were spending a lot of our time personally. So,
because I was going to say the one thing that I also was curious on was, based on those 2 opportunities, obviously there was fail. You know, obviously you had to close, but you guys obviously learned something from those experiences, and then based on that, you basically are now able to do where it's kind of almost. I'm assuming it's kind of been part of that path and that journey to kind of get you to where the opportunity has come now, where after 9.5 years being in Belle Isle, you guys are now actually maybe a football throw away from, you know, being able to actually hit, you know, GBs from where your new location is going to be. Tell me how that came about. Because, you know, I mean, I'm super excited because I like in my brain, that's how my brain has thought, like for you guys, like, it's like, I'm looking at it as, you know, and I think I even maybe messaged you. I was like, I was so excited when I saw that the name that you guys were going to be closer, just because of the fact that I thought of logistics of the fact that you guys are dealing with like 2 different areas. The fact that you guys are having, it's like you're in, or you're going to be in a spot where now people who maybe never had your food will actually get to try and enjoy your food. And so I thought like, I was just excited for you guys. Cause I'm like, this is going to be an amazing opportunity for you guys in a great location. So then tell me a little bit how did that develop? Like, how did that come about and kind of work from there?
I mean, I think the other point of moving up here was just that and going back to what I said earlier, like our first thing before we did GBs was to try to grow on the space that we were at, because we loved what we had going on. We needed a bigger space. Our kitchen was a 10 by 10 box. You know, we had no inside seating, and in Florida in the summer, that's like impossible.
And can you just tell people, because it literally was like a house.
Yeah.
It literally was like you'd walk in and it was a house.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a house. You were going into someone's house that happened to be a bar, and everything was set up. And then obviously you had a lot of outside seating. So like you guys did quite a bit, you did a lot with a little.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just kind of want to mention that because that's like the first thing I remember when I drove in. I was like, this is like a house. But it also added to that quirkiness and to that like coolness to it. You guys even had like a Sasquatch, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeti.
So yeah, obviously the Yeti was thanks to Mr. Troy Barfoot, who spray painted that on the side. But if you go on the property appraiser website, that building was placed there, not built, placed in like 1921 or something. It was a house. And if you get up in the attic, the crawl space up top, I mean, it's not, you know, factory cut lumber in the rafters. I mean, it's hand cut timbers. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
like
terrifying.
Oh, our dream. Like, I mean, we never would have done it because it would have been insanely expensive. But like, to just open up to the rafters so you could see that up there would have played in with kind of all this this wood finishing that we put in. Yeah, the building's old. It's like 900 square feet. There's no inside seating. So in the summer when it just downpours, we might as well close for the day. And so, yeah, we always wanted to grow Gnarly. That's I think been the core of everything we've done. GB's is this great brand that we built because we wanted to grow, and it's in our hearts equally. And we want to put a lot into that, but we're also coming from that place of like, we never got to properly grow Gnarly. So there was a lot of potential to stay in the area we were. You know, the right space just never found us. And that was kind of what happened with coming up here. This space found us. We'd actually looked at it for the bottle shop back in the day before it became Nova, and the couple of things that followed. And walked away from it and ended up here down the street in this space that we love. But it just kind of was one of those just dart throws that got put in front of us, and we took it just one domino at a time because we're like, it's a big move, but if it works out, it's the kind of space that we've wanted Gnarly to grow into, that we think that brand deserves, that we think the customers deserve. Unfortunately, you know, for our regulars down there, it is now a drive for them. Which was something we had to take into account, but we knew that restaurant to keep surviving needed a better space as time went on. Its quirkiness and its all that stuff was part of what built it, but it was becoming unsustainable as the building was getting older, as, you know, obviously, like I said, dealing with those seasonal changes, like we couldn't handle that the same way we used to, and we just wanted to get a better venue, and this was the one that ended up working out.
How much bigger is it?
3 times the size.
Yeah, the inside alone is 3 times the size. With a lot of back of house space. I mean, we had no back of house space. Again, our kitchen was literally a 10 by 10 room, and our
walk-in was outside.
I remember the walk.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we probably have back of house space almost equal to what our entire building was back then, and now we have this big bar and dining room, and we've taken elements of the old building to put into the build out now.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. Like the fact that you guys grabbed the floor and using the floor for your. If you guys aren't, definitely follow the Instagram. The Instagram's kind of giving you quite a bit. It's gnarly_barley 407. Definitely take a look. It's really been an amazing to see. You can kind of, the great thing about it is as you scroll, you'll be able to see the old building and kind of like see the evolution that they've had to get to where they're going. And so is that one of the reasons also why you guys made the decision to kind of also like rebrand at the same time, was because you're kind of like, hey, we're going to a new location. We're 10 years, kind of like fresh, make it fresh. Is that kind of where it went?
Yeah, well, I think part of moving is when you're moving like this and you're not just copying and pasting into something else. Is like, that was an old building. This is definitely not equally old building, but it's still an older structure for this neighborhood. But it has a very different feel. We were coming from kind of an old shack, and now we're kind of in this older block structure. And to try to make it feel the same, I think, is very unjust to the building. Because one of the things somebody that helped us with it said was, play to the space, and what our kind of design elements were before would feel very unnatural in the building we were going into. So, we wanted to update it. We had awesome artists, Chris Kutzer, doing everything for us. Our buddy designed our logo back in the day. Like, it's mine and Trace's faces on the original logo, which was not something we asked for. Our friend Alex Ray, we asked him to do like some sandwiches cheersing. There's this bar in Tallahassee called the Palace. It kind of has like this mug running with a face on it, and we were like, something like this would be funny, and so he decided to take the liberty of putting our faces on it, which was great. But then again, like, as far as like going into this space and into this new venue, it's the same company, but the feel wasn't the same. So we decided it was probably time to update. And I mean, the comparison I like to make from, again, somebody that took us under their wing early on and have been amazing friends and helped inspire us, like Red Light, Brent and his wife Erica and everybody else there, like, they're in their third location, and he and I were talking about it, and it's like, they've been a different bar every time, but they're still Red Light, right? Like, they're still, they do what they do it very well. The core of their business, the soul of their business is there, but it still has been a different venue. And so that's kind of the way I feel about this. Like, the soul of what we do is still going to be the same, but the vibe is going to be different. And I think that's necessary to honor the place we're going into.
That's awesome. I'm super excited. I'm also excited because one of the things that you guys have is going to be a larger kitchen, which obviously then opens up your menu, opens up new food possibilities, more sandwiches. More sandwiches is good for Orlando and for me. So I definitely am excited about that. So do you guys have an idea of when, obviously that's kind of, and I was kind of curious, like, how does that work? Because since you guys are kind of like, there's no restaurant, I'm going to ask the question, like, where's the staff? Like, what happens with the staff, and how do you guys, like, do they do some shifts here in GBs? And then is the other idea then is also, will the idea then come, since you guys are now in closer proximity, will it be something where it kind of allows the opportunity to have, as things grow, because you would hope that, both locations will then continue growing, you'll be able to kind of like crisscross, cross train and kind of move them over and bring people over from one location to the other?
For sure. Yeah, I think like that's like the whole thing is like we saw by putting them both on the same street, you can start asking those questions and it's crazy.
Endless possibilities.
Yeah, endless possibilities. As far as our staff though, they're kind of like in limbo. Like, they stuck it out to the end with us, and we're kind of just like working together, and we're blessed that they're like hanging around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to get them back to work,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because it's not there's so many things that are not in your control when it comes to new builds, and having to build out and the equipment and all those things. I mean, that's kind of like, it's not like you're just grabbing your stuff and just moving it in there and just saying, okay, we're going to start. So that's always kind of the difficulty when it comes to it. So I definitely can see, like, these are the things that I think about. I don't know why, because it's just me. I'm the only employee. It's me and my puppet Biggie Bread are like the only employees I have. Occasionally my wife will kind of help, but I think of these things and it kind of like, it like almost gets me where I'm like, shit, man, how do they deal with, like, how are they thinking about this, and how are they going to handle this? And it's just because I'm invested in the sense that I'm just super excited, and I just like, but at the same time you have like an amazing staff, so that's the other reason why. So with all those things, so I definitely, so that's kind of one of those things where that's the reason why I start asking some of these questions, is because I'm like, how the heck are they doing this?
We're like the 1% you can ask, because that was the problem for us. We were like, who are we going to ask even to, like, who's had to deal with this? Like, not many.
Yeah,
so.
It's a lot of pushing, a lot of just blind faith and hoping that it's going to work out and dealing with whatever is going to happen. Because, I mean, that was for sure. People are like, oh, well, why did you close the other one so early? And it was like, well, if we wanted to take the floors and repurpose them, we had to, because what were people going to walk on? You know, like to kind of make that exchange for trying to maintain some spirit and some story and those things, we kind of, that ended up being the only way that we could go about it. And we needed a little mental reset too after everything. In a weird way, this is well timed with everything that's happened. It's allowed us to kind of work hard on that, but also step back and make sure that, okay, we've done this for almost 10 years. We want to do it for another 10, but we need to kind of reset ourselves and kind of do a little bit of self-care justice that hasn't, that we've ignored for a long time. And so, this whole situation, it's been exciting. It's been stressful. It's been, definitely hard when we're trying to keep everybody together. And, there's never perfect answers to everything. But just kind of, the light at the end of the tunnel, like, hey guys, if we go through this last hurdle, we believe we get to something really cool on the other side. And so that's been, it's been an interesting summer for sure.
What advice would you give folks that are wanting to start something? Obviously, I love the fact that you guys have already kind of debunked the theory of don't work with family or, or friends and stuff like that. So what are some things that, like, advice you would give someone if they, basically from your knowledge and your experience that you've been doing this now, what advice would you give someone that is either wanting to start something or thinking about starting something?
I mean, just start.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, right?
It sounds crazy, but
the first step is the hardest.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. Even just the mental, like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then, I mean, I think the only more detailed thing I would say past that is, like, part of what helped us so much is find your community, find your support. It might not be people who do exactly what you're trying to do, but, like, there are people who all have a piece of the answer, and there are good people out there that want to support and want to pass on that knowledge and want to be mentors. And that was, I mean, I legitimately thought when we went to school that I was never going to come back to Orlando, because just for work purposes, I didn't see the types of community that I wanted to be involved in. So when we came back, because the opportunity was there and we started to make new connections and new friendships, with the business community around us, there were so many people willing to give us advice and give us help and growth and all these things. And so, like, I think that's like the little thing after you say, just do it, get connected, go into the places that you admire and try to make friendships. And, like, you're not asking for a free lunch. You're not asking for all the secrets in the back, but, like, if you find those good people in wherever it is you want to do what you do, they are out there and they will help you, find your way. You still have to make your own decisions at the end of the day, but you can still get a good support base, because that is what's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Just start and you'll be shocked of, like, who will help you. Yeah. And who will come out of the woodwork. It's crazy. Like, right. It's everywhere.
So, yeah, it's, I mean, like I said, we were shocked. I mean, we were kids, and to have, the people that stepped up to help us out from the, just from the beer vendor side and from the bar side, like I said, like, Red Light was the oldest beer bar in Central Florida and knew their stuff. And, like, we looked up to them, and, like, a couple months after opening, we were shaking hands, sitting down, meeting, having a beer, and like starting to get to know each other. And they were more than happy to say, hey, let me help you learn these things that you're not familiar with. And, whatever that was that helped grow us. And there's them and so many people, so many situations like that with other people that, that was really very helpful. And I think that's what you should be seeking out. Don't, you can worry about other little things, but at the end of the day, build your support network, because that's going to help you more than anything.
That's great. Some great advice there. I have like a few other ones, and I know it's probably a little bit longer lunch break, but you guys it's been a really good conversation. So what's something that, and I'm always loved talking to restaurant owners about this. What's something about being a restaurant owner that people just don't understand or appreciate?
Man.
Oh man.
I don't know
that we care about everything.
Yeah.
And you have to, right? You have
Everything.
to.
Right.
Like the staff, we're doing it for everything. Like, you have a customer problem, anything that's no, we're working. We want the resolution. We want to take care of you. That's why we're here. And I think that's the one that goes unlooked a lot.
I think a lot of people, especially now that there's been such a huge media focus on celebrity chefs and all these things. And you had obviously a lot of other scenarios like that. I think what a restaurant owner goes through is out there, but I think you nailed it with the second part of that question, the appreciation of the depths of that, right? Yeah, we can say, oh, we work around the clock and it's soul consuming, but we really work around the clock, and it's what you think about going to bed. You're like, okay, what do I need? Not so much what do I need to do tomorrow in terms of operational, but the creative side of it. What are we doing as a brand, as a company? Are we making sure we're treating our employees the best? Is something that we're about to do as an event going to work out? It really is. That's the thing, is it is you, and you are the restaurant, and they are one and the same. And so it's hard to separate. And I think that's the part that we all say it, but I think sometimes the appreciation factor, people don't understand that sometimes. They've heard it, but to really think about that.
That's why you get along with other restaurant owners really well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you're having beers with them ASAP, because they know.
Right. You're all
you guys are a kindred spirit. You guys are part of a club that no one else knows, and there's always going to be someone that walks in. And I love hearing this from others. I've been told I make really good this, and then I should open my own place.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it's just that I know that, and then I've also heard quite a bit of the one where I heard I asked Thomas this question from Pig Floyd's, and he said for him the consistency, because his staff is constantly making the same thing and making sure that it's consistent and perfect every single time. It can get boring, and then trying to make sure you keep it to that, and that's why there's specials, and that's why you're to kind of keep the whole staff kind of constantly excited about the opportunities. And so those things are, it's tough, because it's different when you're running a small business and it's just one or two people, but it's you have it's you guys, and then you have your staff that are basically kind of an example of you guys. They're an outreach of you guys. And so then you have to make sure that everyone's it's a lot of juggling.
Right. Well, that's it. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, to your point about I make really good whatever, that is 100% of an important piece of the proverbial pie, if you will. But that's one piece of what makes a restaurant. Do you want to do that as your hobby? You can sling an awesome pizza in your backyard, but are you ready to do it 24/7? That's all you think about, and you have to pass on other things and whatever. That's the difference between being an amazing chef or an amazing cook and having a really good product, but then being able to do everything that comes with that is a whole other ball game. 100%. There's so many other things you have to think about. And
you get far away from making just sandwiches.
Yeah, right. It's a piece of what we do every day, and
I'm
it's
a real estate agent. I'm an
piece.
accountant.
Yeah. And that's kind of always the tough part, right? Because it's especially if you're a small business and don't even have that as much staff, you're wearing all those hats. So it's so tough, because you got the social aspect. You got to be good on social, and you got to be good on this, and you got to be able to do that. And there's all these different elements that go with it. So, when people ask me hey, you love sandwiches, are you going to open a sandwich shop? I always say no. I'm going to go support people who own sandwich shops. I was because it's a very, very hard job. And there's a reason why there's not a huge, there's like a lot of restaurants that don't make it, and it's because it's so difficult. So yeah, to me, it's something that I appreciate, and that's the reason why I'm like, when anyone ever asks me, like, do you ever want to? I said, the only way I'm ever going to open a restaurant is if I'm working with another restaurant that wants to open a concept with me. I was like, that's kind of the only way that's going to happen. I'm like, I don't think I can handle this. It's different. It's just different. So I totally get it. No, I totally get that. Do you guys have any questions for me? We'll just make one question. Do you guys have a question for me or anything for me?
What's next for your brand?
Yeah, what's next for Deli Fresh and
oh man,
lunch with Biggie,
maybe you guys, maybe we may have a beer after this, and I can have a mentorship talk conversation with you. It's funny because when you talk about community, one of the people I have, obviously I have a few designers that I'm friends with. Another person that we have a mutual friendship with is a little box guy, Nick, and he and I have been doing this for so long, and he's done amazing growth on wholesale and stuff like that. And so for me, that's kind of where I've kind of started going now. I'm starting to go more, and I've mentioned before, kind of an evolution of my brain of how I've been looking at my brand. And so that's kind of where I'm going now. Now my brain is kind of shifting in the sense that I still want to do stuff from my website, but I also want to be able to give a different experience and maybe get myself in stores and do stuff, enamels, stickers, shirts and things like that, and kind of grow it. Because if I don't get myself out there, no one's going to know. It's like, and that's kind of the difficult part when you're in the world of the internet. Yeah, everyone lives there, but guess what? Everyone lives there. And so you kind of need eyes on stuff. And so that's kind of where I think my evolution is going to go.
Yeah.
That's kind of another reason why I did the podcast. I think I'm doing the podcast as like another branch, just because my whole thing has always been, I just enjoy being able to interact with people, but I also want to be able to introduce people to other brands and other businesses. So I figure this is kind of, I've always made Deli Fresh Threads my lightning rod. Yeah. So I've never really said no to opportunities with it, but it's also opened many opportunities that I would have never been able to do if I not started the brand. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of it's interesting. I'm in an interesting spot right now with the whole thing with COVID and everything, and less events and things like that. So it's definitely been interesting. But the things are percolating. I'm starting to marinate some stuff, and like sandwiches are going to start being made soon. So I'm excited about where that's kind of going, and we'll see. I mean, I'm still trying to find out, to be honest with you. So that's kind of where I'm kind of at, man. It's a tough one, and in many cases for me, I kind of tell people that I'm like, I'm an advantage in the sense there's a good and bad to it. Like I obviously have a full-time job and a family to deal with. So it's like, or to love and handle and go with. And then at the same time, I have the business where I'm trying to grow it. So the pandemic definitely has put like a few dents in me in the sense of like, before I used to have online sales, event sales, and it would and that's kind of how I was able to build. And it was great because I noticed, I saw the build, like I was seeing things, and it was kind of like I was building momentum, and then all of a sudden pandemic hit, way less events, rely more on online sales, and which is fine, but at the same time it's like, then after a while it just kind of, you kind of emotionally, it kind of gets you. Right. So I'm kind of now like, I was kind of down a little bit, and I'm now trying to climb back up out of it, creativity wise and doing opportunity wise. And that's kind of one of the reasons why wholesale was a kind of an idea of like, okay, maybe I can get myself, and I'm kind of curious, and I'm going to bring it up just because we're talking about it. So like one of the big things for me, and I'm just kind of, and I'll bring it up so hopefully someone that's listening to this may actually get this. One of the hardest parts is obviously the ask sometimes. And a lot of times you build relationship with these small businesses, but I also look at it as, because at one point someone said to me, hey, why don't you sell or put your enamel pins and stickers at sandwich shops? Makes total sense, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I then feel like it's kind of like you could either obviously go consignment and say, hey, whatever you sell, then you get me money, or we could do wholesale. But at the same time, I also look at some of these sandwich shops. I'm like, well, they're in tough times. They don't have the money. You know what I mean? Like I start looking at all these things. So then I'm like, I never want to have so then you feel uncomfortable with the ask, especially even more so when you're friends with these owners and you know that they're struggling and they're closing. They're not opening as many days. So it's not like, you know what I mean? So there's so many different levels, and I'm just like, I don't really know if I want to deal with this. Cause it's just, it feels uncomfortable. And so any thoughts on that, on something like that, when you kind of have, like, I mean, it makes total sense. And I think once I start doing a little bit more wholesale, I'm going to just kind of blast it out and just say, hey, any sandwich shop in the United States that wants my stuff, let me know. I send you a sheet, a line item sheet, and we'll kind of go from there. But any thoughts or anything like that?
Thinking it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the ask, like,
it's definitely analysis of paralysis.
Yeah,
I'm definitely I overthink it for sure.
Because I think it's I mean, it's like with any relationship, like obviously you have those concerns, and those concerns are, semi-valid, I say, but maybe not as, they don't have as much weight, so it's like, yeah, it's fair. They're not open as much, but if the relationship is there, right? And you say, hey, maybe now or maybe in the future, just putting it out there, you know, like our opinion wouldn't change having that conversation, right? I know a lot of other people would probably be the same way. It'd be like, yeah, if it fits, it fits. And either way, like we're still, great
it doesn't change
relationship.
anything.
Right, exactly. So
Entrepreneurs, man.
It can only be a positive thing one way or the other. Or that conversation leads to some other idea, So I think yeah, don't overthink it.
I've actually
ask.
I think I've asked Joey in the past. I'm like, why don't I see him in other stores or anything like that? Yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, in all honesty, like I need the push, and I need it. Like will bring it up. Like that's one of those things where I had a previous guest bring it up that actually brought that up about, like, you have to just ask, like the mentors are there. You just have to ask for it. And that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just kind of like, and I joke around sometimes saying that I'm bad at business, because obviously I've been doing this 8 years, and it's like one of those. But at the same time, it's been a journey where I've learned, and I've made mistakes where I know I'm like, hey, I should have done this instead of this. But because of those mistakes, you're obviously I'm still in business, so obviously I'm doing something right. So, but that's kind of where the journey goes. But yeah, we'll have more conversations. I may kind of tug your ears and ask for some mentorship advice, and we'll have some conversations over a beer and a sandwich for sure.
Trade back and forth. I love it.
I'm all about that, and that's kind of one of the things for me. Like I love being able to have that conversation with small businesses as well, because I think it's just so important. Because I may be a little bit further along on some things, and then some things I'm obviously short on that I'm trying to build and get from there. So that's kind of what it is: building that community and asking the ask. Tell people where they can find you, how they can follow you, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
I mean, most of our updates go out through Instagram primarily, to be honest. So you can follow. You said it earlier, gnarly_barley 407 for the restaurant, and that'll tell you the location we're moving to, and hopefully when we have a opening date in the near future here. You can follow same thing, Instagram, GB Bottle Shop. And that'll keep you up to date with everything we have going on here, and any new stuff that comes down the way. So you can find us there. We're on Facebook, Twitter a little bit,
but mostly Instagram.
Mostly Instagram is where a lot of it goes. So that's kind of the best way to keep in touch. And otherwise, just come down for a beer. We're at GB's a lot right now as we're finishing up our day from working down the street at Gnarly. You can find us, and any other stuff you guys want to know.
Or come just literally in the parking lot of Gnarly at 1407 North Orange, and just honk your horn, and we'll come out there and we'll wait for you.
Have you guys counted how many footsteps it is from where you are there?
I have not counted.
Have you gotten there yet?
Only football throws.
Only football throws.
I do love the football throws. Definitely check out their Instagram and check out what they did. They were able to work with one of my favorite UCF athletes, or two of my now favorite UCF athletes. So you can actually watch, see the video from what they did with them about how close it is to go from one location to the other. So it's pretty awesome. Thanks. So that's our show for today. Thank you so much to Joey and to Zach for being on and having lunch with me. Make sure to check them out. When they do open, trust me, you'll see it on our feed. We'll be sharing it because I'll be eating a sandwich while I'm there. So I'll definitely be able to show it, but definitely check out GB's Bottle Shop, Gnarly Barley, when they open up in the new location. If you want to support the show, definitely subscribe. You can always check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, and do some shopping and tell your friends. And thank you so much. Till next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, buddy.